Have you ever heard the phrase status quo? Not that I'm any type of scholar, but it's a Latin phrase. It literally means the way things are. If you know somebody or you're a person who's characterized by the status quo, it means you never break out of the mold. It means you never change. You're exactly the way everything else around you is. People that live status quo are people that it's like their life is just this constant routine, and oftentimes we find ourselves just living status quo. Everything around us looks like everybody else. Maybe you look at your life right now characterized by the same teachers as your friends, the same movies, the same life, the same dreams, the same hopes, the same town. Maybe you're really, really sick of the status quo. You know, the only thing that can sometimes knock us off the pathway of the status quo is a collision and moment, a time where we collide with something, an experience, a circumstance that forever alters our course from just being on the pathway of the norm. Even as Christians, isn't it true? We have like a status quo. I mean, we go to the same church, we sing the same songs, we throw the same stick in the fire at the same camp year after year. Sometimes we do the same things over and over and over again. Maybe you're here and you're really tired of the status quo of being a Christian. Maybe you're not a Christian because you've watched so many Christians and it just looks so normal and so routine and so boring. What would happen if Christians became the type of people that were having collisions, having these moments that knocked us off the path of being normal? Because you know, one of the things that we've all noticed is that being status quo, playing by all the rules, doing all the right things, it doesn't make you happier. Sometimes it just makes you more miserable. In fact, the happiest people in life aren't the people that are the most average, the people that have played it safe their whole life and avoided all the potential collisions that they don't want to have. Sometimes those are the people that are the most miserable. And who wants to be status quo anyway? Oftentimes when we read the scriptures, we can think the Bible is just this big book of do's and don'ts. It can appear as this book that's just telling us what to do and what not to do. But the scriptures actually are something different than that. In fact, there was a group of people in the New Testament that lived status quo. They lived according to all the things that they were supposed to do, and they were called the Pharisees. And when Jesus talks about the Pharisees in Scripture, he never mentions these people in a positive way. Even though they're the ones following all the rules and doing all the right things, he talks about them actually in a very negative way. He says, I don't want you to be like them. He says that to his followers over and over and over again. In fact, at one point in the scriptures, in Matthew chapter 23, verse 27, Jesus says this about the Pharisees. He says, woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees. He says, you hypocrites, you are like whitewashed tombs, which look beautiful on the outside, but on the inside are full of dead men's bones and everything unclean. In the same way on the outside, you appear to be people as righteous, but on the inside you are full of hypocrisy and wickedness. You snakes, he calls them, you brood of vipers. How will you escape being condemned to hell? Jesus doesn't have very good, nice things to say about these people that are just following all the rules. Seems very bizarre to me. Maybe we could look at what Jesus said to the people who actually did do it right in his mind. And a few verses behind the passage we just read in Matthew chapter 4, Jesus says this to his followers when he calls them for the first time. As Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon called Peter and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. Come follow me, Jesus said, and I will make you fishers of men. At once they left their nets and followed him. Going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John. They were in a boat with their father Zebedee, preparing their nets. Jesus called them, and immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him. Isn't it interesting? These people were just going about their everyday normal life. And here comes Jesus of Nazareth. Here comes the Son of God. They didn't even know who he was. But they allowed themselves to be put in a circumstance where a miracle could happen. They allowed themselves to be put in a circumstance where something could happen significant. They allowed themselves to collide with God. See, where the Pharisees got it so wrong is that their faith was in just a bunch of rules. Their faith was in this hope that if they did all the right stuff, if they sang all the right songs and went to all the right camps and never missed a Sunday of youth group, that was going to save them. And where the disciples got it so right is that they allowed themselves, they weren't perfect. They weren't the best of the best. The Pharisees were better than they were. I mean, they followed all the rules. But where the disciples got it so right is that they had their faith in the person of Jesus. And they allowed themselves to collide with him. They didn't expect it. They maybe didn't even want it. But when the moment came and the voice of Jesus said, "Drop your nets and follow me," they listened. And they were compelled by more than just the do's and the don'ts of faith. And they were compelled to do something and experience something in a moment that they knew wherever they were going and whatever they were doing was going to transform their journey. Maybe they didn't expect it. And maybe they didn't even want it. But they knew they were going to be different because of it. I'm beginning to realize in my own life that there's a big difference between believing in Jesus and following Jesus. I know that sounds a little bit weird, but see, believing in Jesus can't be the end goal of the Christian faith. And believers in Jesus, there can be like these Pharisees where they're like whitewashed tombs, where they look good on the outside, and they go to church every Sunday, and they sing all the songs, but nothing's really different inside. And followers of Jesus are the kind of people that maybe you don't have it perfect. Maybe everything in your life doesn't look the way that it should. But you've decided to say, "God, not just my Sundays, but my Monday, Tuesday, my whole life, I want it to be yours." That's following in Jesus. It's not just believing in him. And it's scary. It can be difficult. It can be hard to not play it safe. But see, Jesus didn't come looking for believers. Jesus came looking for followers. Now, there's nothing wrong with believing in Jesus. That's obviously great, but it can't be the end goal. Jesus is looking for people that follow him, that are willing to go places and do things and put all their dreams on the table and say, "God, it's not that I just want my life to be the way that I want it to be. I want whatever it is that you want with my life. And I put all of it on the table, my dreams, my hopes, my money, my future, my relationships, what I see, what I do. I want all of it to be yours." And you'll begin to realize you go places and experience things and do things when you begin to drop your nets and follow and put your whole life into the hands of the person of Jesus Christ. All of a sudden, when you begin to actually collide and not just play it safe, you begin to realize what this Christian journey is all about. What about for you? What do you need to collide with? And are you someone that believes in Jesus but has never really followed him? Because when you really begin to follow Jesus, you start colliding with him in ways that you never even knew were possible. When I was a senior in college, I wrote this phrase down and stuck it on my desk. It was the phrase, "I don't know where I'm going. I just know the one that I'm following." And my hope and my prayer is the same prayer for my life today, and it's my prayer for your life, that you would begin to say, "God, I don't want to just have this tightly controlled plan where I'm just believing in you, but what my life goal and mission and plan is just going to be what I want it to be. But God, I want to do things and experience things and try things that I've never thought possible with my life, and here it is. I don't know where I'm going. I just know the one that I'm following." And you'll begin to see and do and experience things you never thought possible on your own in this crazy, wild ride of following Jesus. And that's what colliding with God is all about. Not just believing in him, but beginning to follow him, just like these disciples.